Thieves will steal our cars, our valuables, just about anything they can get their hands on.
To cut down on crime and antisocial behaviour, the police are now using new tactics where the bad guys actually get caught in the act.
They're launching covert operations.
Keep pretending you're talking on the phone for a bit longer, okay, mate?
And setting clever traps.
The laptop he's about to steal is equipped with a tracking device
that deliver unsuspecting crooks
go
right into their hands.
And there are also ways that we, the public and local businesses, can fight back with some tricks of our own.
I'm not going to sit back and let them do this.
We've caught you and we're sending you down.
So anyone who's up to no good had better think twice. They might just get caught red-handed. Coming up today on Caught Red-Handed, dramatic footage of people running towards a car to buy Class A drugs.
Never in my policing experience have I experienced anything of this magnitude.
The police launch a huge covert operation to catch the dealers. And in Essex, two men pretending to be from the waterboard have a more sinister purpose.
It does make you feel quite sick to actually look at it and think they're ransacking through my mum's sentimental stuff.
Also today, this guy is knowingly using a stolen laptop, but what he doesn't know is that it's secretly filming him. West Midlands Police forcing their way into the home of a suspected drug dealer. It's the final stages of an operation that began 3 months earlier in the suburb of Bordsley Green, Birmingham. When this astonishing piece of CCTV footage landed on the desk of Detective Chief Inspector Nick Walton.
Myself personally, an officer who's worked within West Midlands Police for 17 years now, never in my policing experience have I experienced anything of this magnitude.
It's 8:30 in the morning, and only a few metres away from a nursery school, a car pulls up and blocks the road. The intention? The men inside are about to deal out Class A drugs.
And you'll now see a group of people, a significant volume of people, start to run down the main road towards that vehicle. Now these people, we presume, have gathered at an agreed point, have waited for the vehicle, have perhaps waited for other drug users to go, so they get that confidence that actually this is the drug dealer, and then away they go.
Like children running to an ice cream van, more than 30 drug users rush towards the car.
The volume is unprecedented, and clearly within a residential street, where at this time of day officers would be patrolling, you know, there's a real confidence by this drug dealer to operate in this way.
The dealers in the car have taken over control of this street. No other traffic can move up or down it.
Really concerning around the fact that, is this normal business? Is this just something that's become acceptable?
But the man who captured this footage was not going to put up with it.
They just pounced on the car, all four corners, like they were selling sweets. I mean, they were all of them running around, and it was mayhem. One stage it was mayhem, and mothers and kids were just going to school, hiding their kids, dropping off to school, and it was shocking.
He watched the drug dealing getting worse and worse over the 20 years he lived there.
Oh, the drugs were open, honestly. They were outside the bookies. It was open, you were going past people and you could smell the bud.
And as the dealing increased, police began to worry about other crime.
If you've got 30 people gathering in this location, ready to buy drugs, you know, how have those 30 individuals gained that money at that time? And it's quite possible that crime in that area has escalated as a consequence of them being there, i.e. that dealer is a catalyst for an increase in crime in that area.
With a likely link between addiction and crime, the massive problem highlighted by the Bordsley Green CCTV footage needed to be dealt with urgently. So Nick Walton starts to mastermind a plan to put the drug dealers behind bars.
Enough was enough, and we needed to do something about this. If we were going to gain the confidence of our community, we needed to be seen to do something about what was clearly an endemic problem within their community.
Nick calls in a specialist team of undercover officers. Like this man. We can't reveal his identity, but we'll call him Paul. Undercover officers like Paul first have to get close to the drug gangs. They get to know who to focus on. Then they use miniature surveillance equipment to record the dealing.
My function is to try and gain the best footage that I can of these people in order for the matter to go to court and for the jury to understand exactly what's going on. It is all about the patience, but deep down you sort of know and hope that you will get that shot eventually if you're patient enough.
What he manages to film leaves no doubt that heroin and cocaine are being openly dealt throughout Bordsley Green. Dealers have even taken over the local park and children's playground. We have been given access to the police surveillance footage.
What you're about to see is a transaction that will take place. The man in the red top has handed a small amount of drugs to the man in the blue top with whom he's working, and now you'll see cash change hands from the drug user, and in return for that cash, which is ordinarily £10, £20, they will receive a small amount of heroin or crack cocaine.
Gathering this covert footage is essential work, but there are risks for the undercover officers.
Sometimes you have to take those chances. Ultimately, if you get that footage, then it's worthwhile, and you just hope that when it's played in court that the people see exactly what's going on.
This is a park area where children play. One of the dealers has gone into the bushes, has clearly recovered an amount, and there we've just seen an exchange take place where the drug user has put the item in his pocket and will then leave the area.
Filming goes on for weeks. The dealer's mobile phones give more evidence.
The phone is effectively the business. Mobile phones were taking somewhere in the region of 655 phone calls per day.
When those calls are analysed, it's estimated that between them, the dealers are doing £8,000 worth of business a day. After weeks of intensive evidence gathering, the operation moves into the next stage, making the arrests. And it's done on a huge scale. Around 80 officers a day will bring in the dealers.
It's quite important for us to arrest them at the same time, to prevent them potentially giving accounts, leaving a police station and then telling other people what they've said to the police. So we have an opportunity to undermine them by interviewing them all at the same time. Also, we can catch them unawares.
The operation is a massive success. They managed to get every one of the dealers they've targeted.
There's at least 28, 29 people who are currently in custody. Really pleasing for us the fact that those people felt that the evidential case against them was so strong that they pleaded guilty at the earliest opportunity.
And the icing on the cake?
Through some work with other agencies, we've even managed to target the person who sat at the head of that network, and he has also been convicted.
All these drug dealers went down. Between them, they will spend over 100 years in prison. And since the arrests, burglaries and robberies have dropped locally by 20%. The man whose footage kicked off this whole operation has seen a big change in his neighbourhood.
It has been sorted out. I've never seen no drug dealing there no more.
Fundamentally improved the area tenfold. We went into that community shortly after and started to have face-to-face dialogue with local community members who clearly were telling us that the fact that these individuals had been arrested was key to them feeling more empowered within their own communities.
The area was really rough, there was loads of crimes, and I think it's much better now that you can walk around safe.
Yeah, there's a massive difference. We are happy with what we're seeing.
What we've done is named and shamed, which again has been really well received by the community. We've even gone into local schools and had conversations with the youth in the area to say this is not something you need to aspire to, and if you do get involved in the drug supply market, you will be enforced against and you will go to prison.
The idea of naming and shaming is not just a police tactic. There are a lot of examples of ordinary people using social media and the internet to expose criminals, as with our next victim of crime. Joshua Kaufman here had his laptop stolen from his flat while he was at work. Luckily, his laptop has a hidden secret. Joshua has special tracking software on it, which means if it's stolen, it takes photos and sends them back to the owner over the internet, which is good news for Joshua. But very bad news for this guy who, acquired it. He's got no idea he's being filmed as he goes about a range of activities with Joshua's computer watching him all the time. From sleeping to sitting up in bed and, driving? Joshua received the pictures, set up a website and posted the images online, attracting a lot of attention from media and public. Eventually though, the laptop sends a vital clue, a screenshot of the mystery man logging into an email account. The address links to a car service for which he is a driver, and the police charge him with possession of stolen property. Joshua was reunited with his beloved laptop, complete with a full set of holiday snaps covering its trip away.
Photos I suspect Joshua's filed away in the bin. Still to come on today's show, more rubbish.
A beautiful park, but within it, an ugly scene.
It's just not a nice thing to see. It destroys what beauty there is here.
These fly tippers think only the ducks are watching as they dump rancid rubbish, but their evil deed is caught on camera. Also coming up, a bizarre burglary. This man hides for 13 hours in this wardrobe to escape discovery, but he's waited in vain.
On Caught Red-Handed, we've seen how some thieves are opportunistic. An open door, an open window perhaps. But some are more calculating, like doorstep conmen who prey on society's most vulnerable.
Older people are less likely to be victims of crime. However, there's one type of criminal that targets the elderly, and that is the bogus caller.
Sometimes ramps and handrails can be an indicator as to the vulnerability of people, and that's why we suggest that if you are getting a cold caller, you check their identity, you ensure you have a chain on your door, and you don't open the door unless the chain's secured, and you ask them to pass through their identification, which you then should check, and then check with the company to be sure that they are a bona fide caller from the representing company they're from.
You shouldn't leave your front door and back door open at the same time. They often operate in pairs, and therefore, whilst you're being held at the front door chatting to someone, the accomplice can be using your back door to enter your property.
And next thing they know, they've lost their money that really they should have kept in the bank, but they kept it under the mattress, and it has a real impact on people.
Next, a cautionary tale of two conmen that disturbingly underlines what those police officers were just saying. This CCTV camera was installed in 86-year-old Irene's home by her daughter, and it earned its money the day it caught two callous criminals at work.
When it was put in there, we certainly didn't expect to ever find something like this.
While her mother Irene is distracted downstairs, these two men are upstairs, invading her bedrooms.
It's made my mum very frightened in her own home really now.
Irene lives alone in Dagenham, Essex. Her daughter Susan had become increasingly concerned about her situation.
Always been quite independent, but unfortunately in the last few months she has been diagnosed with lung cancer. There's three of us now that care for her, and you know, we try to do what we can, but you can't be there 24 hours a day.
Worried, the family decided to install a camera to keep an eye on their mother.
We put it in one of the smaller bedrooms to see how she was coping.
The fixed camera was hidden in a pretend smoke alarm, so nothing looked out of the ordinary.
It picked up the whole of the landing in my mum's, and you couldn't get off the top of the stairs without getting past this doorway.
But the camera was about to catch something far more alarming when Irene, at home alone, had an unexpected visitor.
These people decided to knock at the door. There was just one originally. He was in a suit. He said to my mum, "I'm from the water board. I need to check the quality of the water. Can I come in?"
Irene can't remember whether she asked for ID or not, but the man at the door was very convincing.
They told my mum they were testing water quality and she would need to fill up a saucepan because if they cut the water off, she'd want to make a cup of tea. And so she just filled one saucepan and put it on the cooker. And they said, oh, you better start clearing out that cupboard because, well, we might need to fiddle around because that's where your pipes are.
As far as Irene can remember that day, the men inspected both sinks and then left shortly after. It was only when she casually mentioned their visit later that her family's suspicions were aroused.
My sister popped out the tape that accompanies this camera. Normally it's just very boring, nothing. But on that particular day, obviously, there was something.
And this is what they saw. While their frail mum Irene is distracted downstairs in the kitchen, filling up pans and clearing out the cupboard, these two men, supposedly from the waterboard, sneak upstairs.
On the top of this landing, the first guy's gone into my mum's room, the second one's gone into the second bedroom. It does make you feel quite sick to actually look at it and think they're ransacking through my mum's sentimental stuff that she's had for years, stuff my dad brought her. That is her sanctuary, her domain, and there they are. It is actually quite upsetting to look and see strangers wandering around your mother's house like that.
And just in case there was any remaining doubt about what these men were up to, a call to the actual waterboard confirmed that these men were nothing to do with them. They were thieves.
I can't be 100% sure what they took from the house. Obviously, over the years, my mum's got jewellery that my father brought her. All we know definitely is that there is money.
£200 in cash, her shopping and money for bills was stolen from the mantelpiece. Susan handed the tape over to the police immediately, but despite their best efforts, these robbers remain at large. At Dagenham Police Station, PC Jodie Parish is dealing with the case and has seen too many people get conned in this way.
The individuals are unscrupulous that carry out these sorts of crimes. They can be male, female, all different ages, with all different accents, so it's important just, if you're in doubt, keep them out, ring 999. The police would much rather attend a false alarm than another victim registration burglary.
If some good has come out of this, it's that the family and Irene have taken steps to ensure she's not targeted again.
Most of the utility companies, you can set up a password for older people, and it's just a bit of safety that if somebody comes to your door, you can say to them, what is my password? If they don't know it, then you don't have to let them in. Old folk do deserve more respect than this, quite truthfully, and they should have it.
Many thefts are quick grab and goes, but next, a burglary in Yelverton, Devon that starts in broad daylight but ends a long, long time later. Not that this teenage thief knows that yet when he bursts through the patio doors into somebody else's lounge. Picking up a poker, he then starts poking around the house. But he's interrupted by the homeowner coming back. Startled, he goes upstairs to hide in this wardrobe and sits on this shelf. And there he hides while the owner calls the police. And although not recorded on these cameras, he was forced to stay hiding there while the police arrived to look around the house, including the very room he was hiding in. But luckily for him, they didn't check the wardrobe. The police finally leave, but the house owner stays, so the thief stays too. In the wardrobe for 13 hours. Yes, a whole 13 hours later, he's picked up on night vision cameras re-emerging at nearly 5 AM. You might think he would now want to get out of there as soon as possible, but whether being confined for so long has dulled his senses, or he's been in the house so long that it now feels like home, he decides to pad around for the next hour looking for stuff to steal. He even empties the homeowner's bag so that he can fill it with loot. pausing briefly to eat a chocolate bar, also stolen. I guess 13 hours in hiding can make you hungry. Eventually, just coming up to 6 AM, he finally decides to leave with a camera, laptop and cash in his possession. Now he runs? But he didn't know that he'd been secretly filmed the whole time, as the homeowner had these cameras installed as a result of previous burglaries. Understandably, very distressed to find that she'd been sharing her house for so long with a poker-wielding intruder, she handed this footage over to the police. The 18-year-old thief was eventually caught, and after admitting multiple other offences, he was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment in a young person's institution. As well as the obvious, like good locks and alarms, there are other ways to repel a robber before they reach their house.
You need to create as many obstacles as you possibly can to prevent yourself being a victim of crime.
Is there an opportunity to introduce gravel? A burglar cannot make a silent approach on gravel.
Consider having prickly hedges, those spiky, thorny hedges that people do not want to climb through. We're going to get cut to ribbons.
If you attach trellis on top of your basic fence, it's harder to climb over, it's higher, and also trellis can snap easily. A burglar does not want the threat of extra noise.
But the next offenders we're going to see didn't worry about noise or being seen while they committed their crime. Queen's Park, Bolton, established in 1887. This Victorian park is one of the city's most notable beauty spots, appreciated by all. Well, almost all.
To see people tipping, it's absolutely disgusting.
It destroys what beauty there is here, and it's just not a nice thing to see.
Over a 2-year period, park wardens found an increasing amount of rotten food waste was being dumped, in particular right by the duck pond. They contacted Bolton Council.
The content of the waste was actually kebab meats, raw chicken carcasses. There was large quantities of bread, mainly chapati and naan type bread. So it was generally the kind of waste that would be generated in a fast food takeaway type business.
Food outlets have to arrange special procedures to dispose of the extra waste they generate and provide transfer notes to show they have done so. This can incur a charge.
Because there's a transaction passing waste, and obviously they wanted to avoid that because the waste had clearly come from a takeaway.
And while these phantom fly tippers may have thought they'd come up with a way to reduce their costs and dispose of the evidence, Chris Whitehead of the Wildfowl and Wetlands Trust knew the food they were dumping didn't fit a duck's bill either.
A lot of the processed food has got additives in it like salt and sugar, which wouldn't do the birds any good at all.
As for the ditched meat, such a large amount of it going rancid near the pond was a real menace.
Meat is one of the worst things to get into a pond like this. So if you imagine putting a piece of chicken in a bowl of water for a week and just leaving it, it would become really stinky.
Also, potentially at risk, park users' pets.
I have a dog, and my dogs, they're all inquisitive, they always go over to things, and it does worry me as well. I don't want to see my dog going over eating something and getting ill, because you can't stop them, it's too late by the time they've got to it.
We did receive reports as well from the local dog walking community that 1 or 2 of the dogs had fallen ill, and it was suggested that could be a possible link to the kind of waste that was thrown into the duck pond enclosure.
And with the illegal food waste continuing to be dumped, Bolton Council knew they had to act.
We felt the best option would be to put a device in to monitor the area to see what activity was taking place over the weekend period.
Cleaning up the results of fly tipping costs the council thousands of pounds each year, and they already possessed some high-tech equipment designed to catch persistent offenders in the act.
Yeah, the kit itself, which we actually use as part of this operation, was this device here. This is what we call the Merlin device. It's actually designed to be buried underground. We try to conceal it as best as possible. We attach cameras into the side of the device. There's a cartridge here that will enable us to record up to 3 weeks, so we can leave the device in situ for a long period of time.
So they had the gear, but where to put it?
Most of the activity was taking place here, so what we felt the best situation would be if we put a camera directly on the island itself. After concealing the device underground, we aimed the cameras back to shore, but there was some concerns, maybe because it's a favoured spot by the ducks where they do congregate, whether they would start to block the shot, so we wasn't entirely too sure how this would turn out.
It actually turned out very well indeed. First weekend the secret cameras were running, a result. Saturday morning, just coming up to 9 AM, ducks minding their own business, when 2 men come up to the fence and in clear sight start tipping food waste.
It's just not right. It's not the kind of material or food that you would consider feeding to ducks.
The 2 men disappear off camera for just under a minute to dispose of their plastic bags. After all, you wouldn't want to make a mess, would you? But this time, they were unaware they'd been caught on camera. Somebody else had also taken exception.
Fortunately, a local dog walker did notice what was taking place. She felt it was necessary to take some information by recording the registration number of the vehicle the 2 gentlemen had travelled to this park in.
This was passed on to the council. They got the owner's details and asked him to attend an interview at the council offices.
During the interview, the gentleman initially denied that he'd ever been to Queen's Park, despite putting several questions to him.
But when they showed him this film, he realised he couldn't duck out of this one.
It was at that point that he actually said it was him in the film, and he did actually commit the offence.
Mohammed Asghar pleaded guilty to fly tipping. He refused to identify his companion, so he was the only one prosecuted. He was fined £80 and £150 for investigation costs.
It was quite an overjoying moment that we'd actually finally caught the people who was responsible for tipping this waste into the duck enclosure.
The council could only prove 1 offence against the man, but funnily enough, ever since he and his partner were caught on camera, there has been no more fly tipping of food. Something that all users of the park, including Alex here, are all very glad about.
Well, I hope they've learned a lesson, and I hope they now start behaving properly and protect the environment for everybody's enjoyment.
That's it for today. Join us next time when the police and the public catch more criminals red-handed.